I did.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 40, which is freaking crazy.
Right.
Jahanadelphia of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. I'm repping. I know it's all about Philly today, but I'm repping my New York Giants. We're 2 weeks out. 2 weeks from yesterday out from opening night. Down in Kansas City. We actually have our rehearsal for NBC for that game on this Sunday. So we are rocking and rolling and getting ready. And it's going to be a real busy weekend for NBC. We got 3 games. So
I was about to say, you going? You going next?
Nope. I'll be in Stanford,
Oh.
working away. And then I actually have a wedding that weekend. So I will be in driving down to Virginia pretty late Thursday night after the game. So
Okay.
It's never ending. You know, next week I'm in Nashville for a bachelorette. So podcast will probably have to be on Wednesday. Since I will not be, as much as I love you guys, I will not be doing my podcast from
What?
The Airbnb at a bachelorette with 11 girls.
The fall of weddings is just
the fall of weddings and bachelorettes and bridal showers and baby showers and everything. You know, it is that time in life. It's very exciting, though. It's a exciting time for all of us. Make sure you give us a follow, Morgan at M_India_Miller and Kylan at Kylan W. Watson. You know, getting all our takes off. I again have been slacking on my Twitter game. What's up, RC? So, you know, it's we'll try and get back into it. Once the season starts, I'm pretty good about tweeting. Sometimes during the off season, I get distracted. You know, last night I was all eyes glued to the DNC, hoping to see a glimpse of Taylor Swift, but you know, there didn't seem to be a big surprise, but I was hoping for Taylor Swift or Beyonce to pop out on that stage.
She was going to show up from England, huh?
That's what I thought. I was like, you know, maybe look at it.
Yeah. I think everybody was tuning in for that duo of Beyonce and Taylor Swift.
I know. I was like, you're not going to want to miss this. My mom texted me at the end. She was like, so what was the big surprise? I was like, I don't know.
I think it was
but hey, it got probably more people to watch it than you know, whoever started that rumor.
I feel like it was Leon Panetta, but I'm not sure either.
Yeah, I don't know. We were joking. I saw a tweet that was very funny. That they said Taylor Swift was going to come out on stage, and all she was going to do was say she was going to announce a new album, and she was only going to release it if Kamala won, which I thought was hysterical.
Oh my God!
But you know, all the memes. It's politics. You got to be able to have some fun with it. You know, it's testy for both sides and for everybody right now. So we'll stay out of politics for the most part, but every once in a while you get some fun little bits out of it.
Right.
Anyway, we are going to go right into it. I know that this was not the trade that Kylan was hoping for. He was hoping for that to say Brandon Ayuk traded to the Philadelphia Eagles.
So much so that I texted Morgan. I know she was surprised that I wasn't gloating about it because I did not want. This is the one dude from Pennsylvania that come back that I didn't want.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Jahan Dotson, first round draft pick from Penn State to the Commanders, was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles after what was seemingly a pretty rocky training camp from him. There wasn't really necessarily anything about his play, his on the field stuff. It was a lot of the off the field stuff, some attitude issues, some hot-headedness, some issues getting along with the other teammates and players. And, you know, I don't know what that was. You know, I think that the Commanders are really in this rebuilding phase. And, you know, they have Jaden Daniels, who's, I think, incredible. And I just think that they want to start off the year as like drama free as possible. I think that's in my mind, that would be their goal. Cause the team in Washington, whatever you want to call them, since before they changed their name, has just been plagued with drama for years, from coaching to the ownership to everything in between. So I think, you know, a really, really, really big part of this new chapter in Washington football culture is they want to start out with no drama. And I think that for whatever reason, Jahan was not happy in Washington. Maybe he wanted to get back to Pennsylvania. I don't know. It is rare that you see an in-division trade, which it makes me wonder for Philadelphia if they were this desperate, because, you know, I feel like Washington, if he was like going to be a game-changing person, would have been less likely to let him go to somebody in division. They would have just like cut him or something, because they didn't, from what I could read, they didn't get much for him, right?
Yeah, it was basically a discount, because what was it, third round pick?
I was gonna say it was like a third round pick or something.
Yeah, the extra. It was basically what they got for DeAndre Swift, the third round pick, and in the 5th and the 7th, I think, or a 7th round pick. It was like 2 picks.
But you're the Eagles fan. Tell me how you're feeling.
Look, man, it's not Brandon Ayuk, but he'll do. Back home, another Penn State guy. My not so conspiracy theory is that this is the back signal to Mekhi Parsons that dude, they're coming for you if you're not happy losing in Dallas anymore. Like, you know, I think, you know, we're not talking about this because we haven't. At least you were in the midst of the Olympocalypse, but Trey and I talked about what's going on with CeeDee Lamb in Dallas, and I think that's a bad signal to Mekhi Parsons that you see what he's doing to CeeDee Lamb. Imagine what he's going to do to you in another year or two when Mekhi's up. But I think for the Eagles, this is great. They were looking for a third receiver to appear. You know, I think for Eagles fans, this is great. You actually have a reliable third option now. Somebody who can definitely like make people pay, because obviously when you have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert, all three of them get a lot of attention. And now you've got Jahan Dotson who can take advantage of that, right? The one thing that man can do is he can catch balls and make people miss, which is what the Eagles have been missing. A possession receiver, somebody who can actually catch a ball. Hey, Quez, you know what this is? This is bye-bye Quez Watkins, more than likely. And, you know, whichever rookie emerges, I know they really love they really love the rookie that they got. So I think this is great for the Eagles. Howie Roseman does it again. I don't know why any team takes his calls, but they do. And, you know, the Eagles continually benefit from the fact that they basically hoard picks.
So I just have a question. So you just kind of talked our next subject a little bit about like how you think this is going to impact them positively. Are you at all worried that, you know, that the Commanders were so ready to get rid of him? They did trade him to an in-division rival. Is there any part of you that is worried about all the stuff that was happening during training camp, or do you think that was just kind of happening because you didn't want to be in Washington anymore?
Well, I think this is what happens. I think as far as Jahan, he's a type A personality. He's used to being a possession receiver, and obviously they brought him in to be a combo piece with McLaurin, because obviously they don't really have a second wide receiver outside of that. And I don't think it worked, because I think that, you know, when you have a rookie quarterback, you know, it's hard to spread the ball. He's still learning, and I don't think Jahan really wanted to like do all that build up and all the butt kissing you got to do with a rookie quarterback. That's not to say that Jaden isn't good, but like, you know, you have, as you and I both know, some inside baseball here, there's a lot of butt kissing that goes on when you have to, you know, with a receiver and a quarterback. You know, you hear a lot of even though we're both technically national media members, you hear a lot of people that be on TV more than the both of us talking about making it seem like there's not a lot of butt kissing that goes on. They just be like, oh, you know, they were working out together in Texas. Let me tell you, in between what you saw on camera, there was a lot of butt kissing going on. A lot of bro stuff being built. A lot of campfire stuff, a lot of drama with it. So I just think Jahan wanted to be with an established quarterback, and it just worked out that the Eagles were in the market for that. Clearly makes me think that they were probably in on Brandon Ayuk. They just didn't have, I guess, the player. You know, they're not going to trade Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. So it never really made sense. So Jahan Dotson is a good second option. Like I said, I wanted Ayuk, but unfortunately it seems like more than likely he's going to Pittsburgh. But no, I'm not worried about that. I think that, you know, he'll have his fellow Penn Stater there with Saquon Barkley. I think the Eagles are strong enough to be able to take in that type A personality. I mean, you know, if AJ Brown can deal with it, he can deal with it too. So
I agree. So, we kind of just talked about we already kind of talked about his impact. So what, I think that every year or every season, we've kind of, for the last maybe 3 seasons since they were, I'll say since they won the Super Bowl, I'll give them that credit, that I feel like they've kind of been a force every year entering the season. Are there any teams that can stop the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, I will say within the division, no, I don't think so. The Cowboys, I feel like, are always on this weird thread where we never really know like what is happening with all of their players staying or leaving until like the week before the season starts. The Giants I love them. They're trash. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be really, really good.
Speaking of a guy that doesn't want to be somewhere.
I think that, they need a new quarterback. And, I really hope that what we saw at that preseason game was a fluke and it was somehow a game plan to make everybody think we were going to suck. And then they come out. I don't know. I just don't know. They're not going to beat them. And honestly, I think that you're going to laugh at me, but I think their biggest threat is the Commanders. I think that Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback. I think they've surrounded him with some solid talent. I think that the defensive side is much better than it was last year. It's a little bit more mature. And I think that would be their biggest threat within the division. And again, the Eagles' biggest threat is always themselves. They always tend to blow up towards the end of the season, whether it's, and again, it never really seems to be stuff that's happening on the field. It's kind of always seems to be stuff that's happening off the field, which is what would make me nervous about having Dotson there. But I don't see them losing the division this year. I don't see it happening. Like I said, if it happens, it would be a combination of because the Commanders get hot and the Eagles implode. Outside of the division, I think that there are just some really strong teams. I think that the NFC East is just so weak, which sucks because I feel like we used to be so good. I just feel like this year we're going to be weaker, and I hope I'm surprised. I hope I come on here in 3 weeks and everybody clowns me and I'm on freezing cold takes and everyone's like, haha, they're great. Trust me, there's nobody that would be happier than for me to be wrong about this. But I that's kind of where I stand. What about you?
I'm of the mindset that nothing can beat the Eagles except for health. And, and Nick Sirianni not following his word of being hands off this year. I feel like as long as he keeps everything kosher with Jalen Hurts and lets Kellen Moore cook, I think we're entering the 3rd straight year of Kellen Moore. I think the reason Kellen Moore is there is if an implosion does happen. He's the coach. I said this. Morgan knows this. I've been saying it for a while. A guy with a unique K name that's very close to mine doesn't just show up there and doesn't have a guarantee that he's going to be the next coach when it implodes for Nick Sirianni. I'm not saying it will implode. Everyone, the Eagles have talked about how they're trying to fix things. It sounds like most of it was a lot of players being beyond themselves and the battle between Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, and the former OC. So as long as, like I said, Nick Sirianni stays out the way and lets Kellen Moore and Jalen cook, I think it works. I think that I'm of the mindset that you're about to get the 3rd straight year of the best offense being in the NFC. I think the only thing that can stop them other than health is the 49ers. But like I've said, the 49ers are basically imploding before our eyes. And they're about to lose a weapon in a minute with Brandon Ayuk. That's not me reporting anything. That, as Morgan knows, we know that that's about to happen sooner or later.
It's an inevitability. It's I don't know if the exact spot is an inevitability, but I think most people are saying
it's the Steelers.
95% it's the Steelers. Again, the only other team I think that's really made a big play about it would have been the Commanders. But I feel like they kind of lost some luster because they would have traded Dodson plus other stuff for him.
Right. So I mean, I think this all, but I think going on what you just said, I think this move, at least on the Commander side, seems to me that they lost out on that Dotson on the IU sweepstakes and probably all but guarantees that he'll be in Pittsburgh in this next week or two. But yeah, I'm of the mindset that the Eagles look like on paper the best team in the NFC and probably a top two team because outside of the Chiefs, I mean, to me, the Ravens still have too many questions on the defensive side. I have no questions about them offensively, but defensively, the Ravens aren't what they used to be. Like, Morgan knows more than I do because she grew up in the area. Like the Ravens used to be that steel curtain in the DMV, and that's not the case anymore. Like
The Ravens just used to always be dangerous, and I don't feel that way as much anymore.
Yeah, I feel that way about them offensively. Defensively, I have too many questions. Like,
yeah,
I have no questions.
And it used to always be the opposite. It used to be that their defense was killer and you couldn't beat it. And
yeah, like other than Kyle on defense, Kyle is like the only thing that I'm sure of on that defense. Everything else, I'm like, Kyle Hamilton and nothing. It's like the Bills, right?
Yeah.
Everything is on Kyle, just like everything is on Josh Allen for the Bills. Everything is on Kyle Hamilton on the Ravens side. And it just seems like there's nothing else outside of that on their defense.
Yeah.
Like if their defensive line isn't sacking anybody, which, like I said, right, we're all I've mentioned so far in their secondary is Kyle Hamilton. That is a problem if you're a Ravens fan because I have no idea what else is on that team. But we'll find out because they do play. The Eagles will see the Ravens this year. And we'll get to this question, in a couple of weeks when we start doing our NFL preview. But I fully expect the Eagles to be a 1 or 2 seed this year. Like I said, their only real competition in the NFC would be the 49ers. No disrespect to the Lions, but they're not in this class. I know a lot of pundits want to make the Lions more than what they are. They're not in this class. Neither are the Packers. It's the Eagles and 49ers and everybody else. But moving right along, what other team or teams need to make a move before the season starts in 2 weeks? Y'all already know my answer. I just previewed it, so I'm gonna let Morgan go first.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I feel like a lot of these teams are kind of locked in a little bit. I don't think I think everybody should go into the season with 3 solid QBs, 3 healthy QBs. I guess that is because there wasn't many teams last year. I don't think that had to dip into that third quarterback that didn't have to dip into that third quarterback at some point in the season, even if just for a few drives. And so I always think every team needs to make sure they go in with, 3 solid quarterbacks. There are questions that I have kind of in a few different spots. And some of it, I just feel like I need to wait and see, which isn't really what the question is. I mean, I think the Giants need some running power, and I think it's going to be really different this year without having Saquon. It's just going to be a completely different offense. There are no really running backs that are available, so they're not going to get one. But I wish that they would have traded for, Singletary is great, but I don't know. He's not Saquon, and that'll be really hard for us this season. What do you think? I know you just kind of prepped yours, but you want to go into a little more detail?
Sure. Y'all know that I'm the number one. I'm the only one on this podcast that doesn't think Josh Allen is a top 10 thing until he proves it to me, as Morgan knows. And Morgan and everybody else continues to have their mouth. Continues to be shocked when he fails, and I keep saying the same thing. He's not a top 10 talent until he proves it. So I think that Josh Allen is essentially, becoming the Drew Brees of this era. He's being underserved by an inept, and I'm not a football mind, but to me, inept football minds in his front office, because I don't understand how you have a talent like Josh Allen and the only thing you've done so far is gotten rid of Stephon Diggs and not replaced him.
That's fair.
You lost Stephon Diggs, you lost Gabe. The only thing that you have there is tight ends. And that's why I say it reminds me very much of Drew Brees back in the Chargers days, when the Chargers used to just be Drew Brees, Antonio Gates, and that was it. And then you had LaDainian Tomlinson as well, but that was it. And like, that's really what this is reminding me of, like how Drew Brees underperformed. This is why I keep saying Buffalo. I think you might need to get ready to lose Josh Allen because he can't
If they
continue.
can't provide him with a solid team around him, he's gone. He is. And I think he loves Buffalo, but I also think he wants to win. And he's a good enough quarterback that he should be winning, but his team is just not, his team doesn't support him.
Yeah, and I mean, this is why I keep saying, like, Brandon Ayuk and Jahan Dotson, which the Eagles got Jahan Dotson for a cheesesteak and $2. So, like,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
why
why
the Bills are not
right,
actively trying to get Ayuk. I
right.
don't understand that.
Yeah, so, like, I kind of said the same thing. Y'all, if you're a fan of a football team, and I talk about your team a lot, like I said, Morgan knows this. Last summer, all I was talking about was the Ravens were stupid for not trying to go get Lamar Jackson, and it would cost them in the Super Bowl. And what happened in the Super Bowl? They had an inept quarterback, and it cost them. Right?
You mean the 49ers were stupid not to go and try and get Lamar?
I said that, didn't I?
Said the Ravens.
Oh, sorry, the 49ers. Sorry, the 49ers were stupid to not get. Y'all know what I mean. The 49ers were stupid to not see about Lamar Jackson when it was all but over. Like around this time, right? It was all but over last summer. Like Lamar Jackson.
I wish that all of that had happened this year because I think the Giants would have done. I want to think that the Giants would have done something.
Right. So like that's why I mean, like the Bills, like Jahan Dotson was available. Nothing. Like Brandon Ayuk's available. I know all you got is tight ends, but you got to have something. I mean, there's some defensive players that the Commanders need. Like, y'all got that, but y'all got nothing. And so this is what I mean. The Bills, the Jets, there's a lot of teams. The Bills and the Jets, to name a few, like, y'all had an opportunity to put a weapon with Aaron Rodgers, the aging Aaron Rodgers, Morgan's favorite, he's not him, Aaron Rodgers, like, and you couldn't do that. Like, the Bills and the Jets, I don't really understand what you're doing. Like, the Jets are being led to the woodshed by an aging Aaron Rodgers, and the Bills are basically telling Josh Allen, "Yeah, we can't get you no help. You might as well take Haley and go somewhere else." So that's essentially what's going on in Buffalo. I don't think Josh Allen is long to still be a Buffalo in another 2-3 years. How long is this contract? He just signed like a 4-year, right? He's got like 2 or 3 more years left. So he's out after this contract's over. I just want y'all to know that. And if my 4-year Chris,
if they don't win a Super Bowl, he's done, I think. But
I think if they don't start putting, like, again, the best thing I can say about this postseason, this offseason for the Bills is they got rid of Stephon Diggs. But I don't really understand if he was the problem or if it was the front office, because I think he was an easy scapegoat. But I think the front office is more of a problem than him. Because, again, if all you got is Stephon Diggs and you lost Gabe too, like, what does Josh Allen have besides tight ends? And that's not going to win you anything. He doesn't have a running game either besides himself. He's the running back, the quarterback, and the receiver at this point. He might as well throw the ball to himself.
Yeah. True.
So.
All right. Well, moving on.
Right.
So this is a weird. Again, we talk about this almost every week. Something's new and stupid that college sports are doing or trying to do. So Yahoo Sports, Ross, I think it's Dellinger, I think is how you say it, is reporting that college athletics programs might start tiering their sports programs. Now, I saw, Kylan, you tweeted that any AD who can't get funding for all of their sports should be fired. And I agree with that. I think that is literally your job as an athletic director, is to find funding for all of your sports. That's your job. Your biggest job. Literally your biggest job is to get the budget. Now, I understand. So again, there's this, I have twofold with this. I understand that some of the smaller schools, it might be more challenging. Fine. You either equal out the budget or you start cutting teams. And that's horrible. I don't think you should be doing that, but you cannot tier teams as importance over cutting them. In my opinion, everyone gets the same, or I don't know. I mean, the fact that you would even need to tier it is absurd, but I don't know. I just like.
To be fair, the only team, because what Dellinger was reporting what Ross was reporting is basically from Matt Brown, because Ohio State. You guys want to know which? Probably you're all wondering which school are we talking about. So this week it's Ohio State. Ohio
Yeah.
State is the school that put this out. The Ohio State University. Let me
Yeah, put the respect on that "the."
let me be respectful to the Harvard of Ohio colleges. Let me be respectful to them. Even though like Ohio State, I don't know why they're doing this. I know they lost their main president to the Chicago Bears, but I don't know why this new guy and their new AD came in doing stupid stuff. Like
Yeah, so that's where I think a lot of this anger is coming from. Like, this isn't coming from like a school like, I don't know, let's say
Harvard. This isn't
like
coming from Harvard
or Harvard or I'm like Sacred Heart, like a smaller. I mean, it's a private school, so it's a little bit different. But no, it's actually, I guess, would even be more relevant because they don't get state funding.
A Duke or Syracuse is not coming from any of the private schools.
No, it's coming from one of the largest public schools in the country. I would assume that Ohio State, probably University of Texas, might be a little bit bigger, but
Penn State, Michigan, yeah, it's not one of the
pretty
bigger
much. It's a Big Ten school. Big Ten schools are swimming in money when it comes to athletics. Just their football team alone brings in enough money to support every single other team that's there. And the reality of it is, you cannot give all of the money to football. You can't do that. They don't need all of that money. There's other things that need that money. So that's the tiering should be everybody makes all the money and then it kind of gets split. Obviously, there are some sports that are going to get larger funding than others. Football, basketball,
for them,
hockey at schools that hockey is big at, lacrosse at schools that lacrosse is big at,
volleyball and all the other,
yeah,
Big
volleyball,
Ten, basketball,
all that,
football,
soccer
volleyball,
sometimes,
wrestling, soccer.
And then, but then of course there are going to be the smaller sports that probably don't need as much funding. There's not a need for. It's different. There's less travel. There's less this. There's less that. And a big thing, we're not going to pretend like this isn't a big thing in football. Is for some of those bigger sports, you have to, when you host recruits, you have to show them we have bigger and better than everybody else. You're competing against everybody else. You get the facilities, the this, the that. But I just don't think that it's fair to be like, you're going to Ohio State to play, to fence on the Ohio State's fencing team, a smaller Olympic sport. And you are getting, and this is what I don't even really understand about the tiering system. Because right now, every team isn't getting the same amount of money. I'm assuming.
Right, so I could alleviate this for you. So basically, and for the audience as a whole, for those of you that don't understand, so the tiering system for what's being reported by Matt Brown and Ross is the way Ohio State specifically has it set up is, essentially it's 3 tiers, right? It's the biggest one being, do you make money, attendance, and then obviously They got it under 2 things, but those are 2 of the 3. I'm butchering the other one, but the other one is basically like, do you make money? Do people attend your games? And how much? I think I said, do you make money? Like, obviously, for sports at Ohio State, it's basically just football and basketball. I don't want to be disrespectful to their volleyball and wrestling teams because it's the Big Ten, and we know volleyball is big over there too. But it's not basketball and football money. Obviously, Ohio State hasn't been relevant in basketball in a while.
Nothing in the world is football money ever. It's right. Just that's just a fact.
Right, but obviously, as we have found out from these leaks, they make more money off of the NCAA, off of the March Madness, than they do even off the football playoffs. So really, it's football and basketball that is everything else. So that's what they're doing. And to me, to answer the next question as well is, this is just them basically defunding. The buzzword here, defunding all the other sports that don't make money. Like, this is essentially like what this is essentially is, if every school took this model, every big time conference, every big or small school, you would stop seeing like the Noah Lyles of the world, the Jordan Childs winning gold medals and going to the gymnastics programs. Because if you're not Oklahoma gymnastics, if you're not Michigan gymnastics, if you're not LSU gymnastics, Auburn gymnastics, if you're not Sha'Carri Richardson, if you're not an LSU track person, like, your track programs gone. Anything Olympic sports gone because they don't make money. Like other than lacrosse and maybe softball, some of these schools like in Oklahoma, Syracuse, or BC, like the lacrosse and softball powerhouses, like the Olympic sports are basically dead. And this is what I said in that tweet, right? This is them based that Morgan referenced earlier. To me, because Morgan knows I'm from Philly. My BS meter goes off immediately when people start trying to spin me. But like, this is basically them trying, specifically Ohio State, essentially to me. I don't know why they put this out in such a public manner too. I don't know if this was leaked. I don't know how Matt Brown and Ross Dillinger found out about this. But however they did it, this is Ohio State's Heritage Foundation moment. Because why are you putting this out in public right now? Like, maybe y'all thought because of the DNC and like the NCAA is like taking off so much fire, you could drop this and like no one would know. But why are you doing this right now? Like, we already know because now we've got some soccer girls reporting that we had a soccer person that I retweeted last night from Penn State because now they're starting to cut these programs from 30 to 28 now. So she got cut, right? So like, and now she's
like
looking
a
for
junior
a program.
or something on the team.
Like, yeah, and she got cut. There are other juniors and seniors getting cut from their teams now because the NCAA and everybody else is trying to get. This is why I say I don't know specifically with football players. This is why they are them are the football players, because you all understood, right? Because y'all didn't want to be a part of a union. This is what happens when you don't have a union. Like, this is what happens when the NCAA is like, oh, the football players and the basketball players don't want to. More the football players. I'm not blame the basketball players, but the football players are like, we don't want a union. Now look, soccer girls are losing their scholarships. I'm sure there's a lot of other fall sports losing their scholarships. We haven't heard from the field hockey people yet either. Like the soccer people are talking about it now because soccer is being played right now. Like it's a whole thing. So yes, this is Ohio State's, again, this is their Heritage Foundation moment. I know Morgan said we're staying away from politics. That's what she said. That's not what I said. Heritage Foundation this is Ohio State's Heritage Foundation moment. And again, Ohio State, it's not good for you that I'm comparing you to Project 2025. Because why are you stupid enough to leak this? Like keep that in-house until next year. Like, why are you doing this? Unless you sent this out to all those Olympic sports coaches to be like, hey, just saying, y'all might not have a team next year. So essentially, to spell this out for y'all, what's going on here? Ohio State's AD is basically saying that what he is saying is they're not going to lose scholarships. Basically, they're going to take their swim team, and instead of making them a D1 program, they'll be a club team now. So they will be the equivalent of your child. If you got a scholarship to say Ohio State swim team, you're in another year or two, your scholarship is basically just going to be Ohio State club swim team, Ohio State club diving team, because that's what they're going to do. Because it's optic suicide to be like, oh, we're just pulling scholarships. So what they're doing is doing what Ohio State is saying and tearing it. And like I said, if you actually believe, if you're a student that goes to Ohio State, a student athlete, and you're not a basketball football player, if you actually believe that they're not going to pull your scholarship by making your team a club program, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. because y'all need to start looking at transfer. Y'all need to start looking at this, because this is what happens. And this is why I say you need to sit those football and basketball players down all over the country, mostly football players, and tell them we need a union, because you're seeing what's happening just with the soccer girls right now. Like, so just imagine what's going to happen to the swim team. Just imagine what's going to happen to the people that aren't the future Team USA stars in a minute. Like, just imagine what's about to happen to the lacrosse girls that aren't the Syracuses, the BCs, the UNCs, the dynastic lacrosse teams. Just imagine all the sports that y'all like, that are in the Olympics, that y'all watch. Like, just imagine if you're not Oklahoma softball. Like, just imagine what's going to happen if you're not UCLA softball. Yeah. Like, it's over for you. Let me just spell this out, because they're going to BS y'all. It's over for you. Like, it's over. Like, your gravy train is over. They're going to demote you to a club team, because Ohio State has basically spelled it out. You think they're not doing that in public schools, just not spelling it out? Let me tell you something. It's over for y'all. Get a union. It's over for y'all. That's all I can say.
I have a little more faith than that, but
I
I think it's going to be a fight. I think it's going to be a struggle. I hope maybe as it gets more and more talked about that people will make a bigger stink. But I don't. My only reasoning for saying that is because of Title IX. I just don't think that you can start cutting every sport that's not, a male driven dominated sport, because realistically that's what makes the money. So, I that's my hope, is that, or all these athletes will just go pro. I don't know. They'll just train for, I don't really have an answer, but I have a little bit more,
you're answering the next question. What does this mean for the future of the Olympic and non-revenue generating college sports? I've said it. The gravy train is over for y'all. Like, if your sport, this is why I say, like, these athletes, because they knew before any of us did that this was coming. That's why I say you need to sit every athlete in a college sport right now. At every college, y'all need to be on Zoom calls. Y'all need to be all together trying to figure out how you're going to advocate for yourselves. Because if you're not men's and women's basketball, if you're not football, and depending on the school you're at, if you're not the lacrosse program, and if you're not the volleyball program, or the track and field or the gymnastics team, you better all be coming together thinking about how you're going to get a union. Because this is what happens when you're not in a union. Y'all need to reach out to all the alumni y'all got that are in the, specifically, if I was a college athlete right now, I'd be reaching out to the NBAPA, because that's the best sports union in all the pro sports, and I'd be trying to talk to those lawyers and figuring out how do we advocate for ourselves, because the settlement isn't even fulfilled yet, and they're already cutting scholarships and cutting juniors and seniors off their soccer teams. People can't go back to Penn State now because, the one girl that I retweeted, she was going to Penn State. Can't go back to Penn State now because the scholarship's been cut. Like, look at this. This is the inhumane stuff. This is just before the settlement happens. So, like, it's over. Like, I just said, I don't think you'll see Jordan Childs and other athletes, like, she's good. She's back now. I don't want to make her a target, but, like, I don't think you'll see these Olympic gymnasts and Olympic swimmers going back anymore in a minute. You won't have that Olympics to, collegiate athlete to Olympics pipeline anymore, because of these schools. Because, I know that to pick on another school that's close to you, I know UVA swim team is a dynasty, but they don't make no money. Let's be real. They're not UVA basketball or football. Like, it's over.
There's going to have to be some kind of, I don't know if it's government assistance or government requirement of, if you want to be a D1 program, you have to have a certain number of D1 sports. I don't know what they're going to do, but I think it's insane to just cut anything that doesn't make money. Because at the end of the day, you are an educational facility that should be, teaching kids, and maybe they just get away with scholarships. I don't know. I mean, if that's what that is, then that's what they do, or they give less scholarships. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that every person that's on a college team needs to have a scholarship. But or tier the scholarship. Some people get their housing paid for. Some people get this. Some people get that. I don't know. I just think and I know you're not saying that the right thing to do is to cut them. You're just saying that that's what you think is going to happen. I just think that.
I mean, let me just clarify, right? Morgan already told y'all what my tweet is. I've said it since we've heard about this. Like, if you are an athletic director or directors, if you're athletics leadership in this country, and your first thing, like this Ohio State AD just got there, and his first thing is essentially, we're cutting. Like, you should be fired. Like, that is my opinion. I think that if you take these 80, 90,000, 100,000 a year jobs to run these programs, let's be real, it's probably more than that. If you're getting close to $1 billion a year to run Ohio State's athletics program, you shouldn't be talking about tiering. What you should be talking about is, all right, I'm telling the Ohio State volleyball team, like, they got to do something to start making a profit. Like, I don't know what it is, but do some fundraising, do some stuff, like, to get adequate funding to fund a year of volleyball or whatever it is, right? So, like, that's what I would be doing, or I'd be thinking.
I mean, your first thing should be reaching out to alumni, and working on your endowment. Your first thing should not be, let's cut sports that aren't the major men's teams.
Right. And I am in full agreement with you. Let me just clarify.
No, and
I'm not
that's what I
saying
said. I was like, you're not saying that this is what you think is right. You're just saying what you think is going to happen, and those can be different things, and a lot of the times are. So I think we're going to move on to this is so okay. So Kyla knows a lot more about this than I do. I was hesitant to even talk about this because I don't really understand it. I can give you a very brief background, and then I'll kind of let Kylan take over. So one of Dion's assistant coaches, apparently former. I don't even. Is it apparently or is it proven?
It's proven. It was a former assistant coach. He said in the SI article, at least to them from the quotes that I read, I think you read too, that he has emails and stuff.
So he reached out to investors in Saudi Arabia, and I think I saw Jordan too. That to see if they would either create a new NIL investment fund or donate to the investment fund that was there. And
to be fair, this was to benefit his idea was not to. This was to benefit every athlete that goes to Colorado.
I mean, good. Trying to do a good thing, I think going about it the wrong way. First of all, I just don't ever think an assistant coach should be doing something like this without talking. Was this an assistant football coach?
Yeah, so he was a former. He was like their scout coach, and like he left that because they needed an NIL person. And just to be fair to him, his name is I believe his name is Reed. He was a Mormon. That has nothing to do with this, but just for the sake of the story, so y'all know. So if there's an SI article about this, Morgan did a great job with it. To be fair to her, she didn't want to talk about it just because. And, we are all just finding out about this. This is what happens when you have the NCAA and the DNC taking up air, and we're all coming off a post-Olympics break, and people are on vacation and everything else. Stuff slips through the cracks, right? And, and I think you see Colorado and Dion are very happy to slip through the cracks. So what happened here is of his own volition. To be fair to Colorado and Dion,
kind of what I was saying. Like this is where it gets weird, where he went rogue.
Yeah, of his own volition, he went out there. I think they knew he was doing this, so he is a Mormon. And again, doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to make a stereotype about him, but before this, he reached out to his Mormon contacts, and apparently, it was he claims about a network of $1 trillion that these people had. And so, essentially, what happened was, he reached out to them because they're what Colorado is trying to do now that they got Dion is basically use him to get a lot of money to fund their athletics programs. Because again, if you're not Georgia, Alabama, and all the other big powerhouse schools with big time football and basketball alumni and rich people that went to your school, you're not really doing much in athletics, right? So that's what this is, right? So he had emails about that, and then for some reason, he decided to go to Saudi Arabia and Jordan and reach out to them. And apparently Saudi Arabia was very interested. Again, as Morgan alluded to, right, you hear about PIF because of Live Golf Fund, and, just to really, really summarize it, right, but what most people accuse them of is sports washing. Obviously, their atrocious human rights record, which is facts. They're atrocious. They are atrocious on human rights. That is a fact. Now, sports washing, that's where it gets a little murky, but that's what a lot of people think they're doing, sports washing. You see this a lot with WWE going over there, them paying them a lot of money to come over there and do some pay-per-views and stuff. And so it gets a little murky here. But essentially, what the SI article came down on is that this is not specifically illegal, right? So, like, it's not like the NCAA, because they're dumb, have a rule that says international rich countries can't buy in, essentially, to the NIL programs of these schools. And that's where it gets a little murky here, because that's why Morgan didn't want to talk about it, because once you get associated with Saudi Arabia, you've got their atrocious human rights, and you've got these independent colleges. And then the question that becomes, like, if that did happen with the Colorado volleyball team being stereotypical Saudi Arabian stuff, like, you got a lot of stuff here.
It's sticky, and I think the biggest issue is that it was kind of done slightly secretively, and like I think that students at Colorado, I would say maybe specifically female students might have something to say about part of their money being donated by people who don't necessarily believe that women have rights at all. Saying very, that's very simple way to say, some of the human rights issues that are happening in Saudi Arabia.
And we're both trying to be careful here because
this is it's a really, 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 really sticky situation. So I think that the bigger issue, if we're gonna go there, is that this man went out by himself and was trying to do a good thing. I think was trying to help the students, was trying to propel Colorado forward to a place where they had a lot of money for NIL. They could offer kids money to come there, try and compete with some of these big schools, kind of plummeting off of the idea of having Deion there, right? Like having Deion there was already so much media and, giving great press to Colorado more towards the beginning of the season than towards the end, I will say. But the first part of it is I think the guy was trying to do something good. I think he saw what money was brought in for Live and for some other things. But, I think that it's a bigger and more complicated issue. Again, if he was reaching out to Canada to help and support some things, this might be a little bit different. Or if he's reaching out to Amazon or Google or, an American company to help donate in the NIL. All of these things I think would be different situations. And, we don't know. I don't even really understand. I know, Kylan, you might understand more. Going into the NIL, these people that donate to the NIL's collective, a lot of times they're fans of the school, they're alumni of the school,
or
boosters. So it's, what do they get out of it? Well, they want to see their school win. That's what they get out of it. Now, what would a foreign entity supporting money? I know we're going to get into that in the next question, but
what does it look like to have Colorado football sponsored by Saudi Arabia
PIF? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and not that like I just think that it's an interesting dynamic of like, what does Saudi Arabia get out of that? Are they taking some money back from it? Because Live they own and they're making money off of Live. Well, or sort of. But that is in their own kind of entertainment. They own that. They can do what they want with it.
Right. Whereas what are you doing?
This is still Colorado. It's just people donating money to them.
Are you buying so that's again, this is why it's murky, right? Because like it's different with a college because it's not like, you do have some people, Adam Weitzman being one of them, that have bought colleges, but most of those colleges are closed. So they bought colleges that were done. So I don't know. That's the thing. We don't know what Saudi Arabia would get out of it other than, I guess, maybe just that.
Is it like naming rights to a stadium? Is it this? Is it that? And I think that's the stuff that like
the publicity of having University of Colorado Boulder sponsored by Saudi Arabia. Like I think that's it. Like I think that's all they would get out of it unless they're trying to then buy the school.
But then you get into a whole other murky situation of like,
can international power buy an American college? Like it's
an international power that is just supremely different from the way that things are run in the United States versus just not even comparable countries of ways that things are run. I just think it's an interesting dynamic that would need to be dived into more if it was something that people are interested in. But I think the question that Kylan has posed here is really interesting about what does it say about Deion's leadership, and is the Colorado program worthy of that kind of investment? I think that, like I kind of said, I think that what he was trying to do was smart. It was a smart time to do it. Capitalize. There was so much good publicity probably in those first like 5 or 6 weeks of the season that if you had asked me in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, I would have been like, yes, like let's pump up programs like Colorado, blah, 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 blah. Now, towards the end of the season, I didn't necessarily agree with some of Deion's coaching strategies. I thought that Deion took no responsibility. I think a lot of people were kind of feeling that way towards the end of the season. Like no shade against Colorado and Deion. That's Deion's coaching style. But I think that, when you start losing is kind of how you start to see people's true colors or things like that. But I think that this is a great point. I think that we should be bringing up these colleges that get momentum. And I'll give JMU as an example. JMU is a really freaking exciting team last year. We were undefeated for a really long time. The national media, the national news was talking about it. And I guarantee you, behind the scenes, their NIL people were working their magic to try and get investors right now and be like, look how good we can be. Look how good. And I think a big thing,
We can be even
Colorado's a
better
little
with your
bit
money.
exactly. And well, I think that Colorado's a little bit different because Deion knew the money situation going there. He chose going there. He's not looking for money. He's not looking for whatever. Some of these schools, like a JMU or like a Colorado, not with Deion, with their basketball, soccer, whatever coaches, the more money you can get, you can offer them money to get them to stay. And I think
Right.
that that's such a big deal
They can
for
get they
these
can get more
mid-level
athletes.
programs
Yeah,
almost.
you have to go to Colorado, and this is why I said, like, to Dion and the University of Colorado's credit, as you know, this is a view of our conversations off air when we talk about this as journalists, right? Like, you know, Dion here, he was not irresponsible, or what some people say irresponsible. I would say being cautious. Him and Colorado kind of shut this down, which is why Trevor Reed is so upset about this, because he burned through a lot of, he claims in the article, read the Sports Illustrated article, guys. It's a really great read about this. He claims that he burned through $3 trillion of net worth from his Mormon contest, which again is the only reason why I'm bringing up his religion here. There's a lot of rich Mormons, and it's benefited the Utah Jazz, and so I don't know why Colorado did not want, you know, the less problematic thing here to me would have been take the Mormon money, but they didn't want that either. So you know, I think that, like, if you get $3 trillion, if you get a bunch of Mormons that are ready to, you know, invest in your program, and they're not telling you to become a BYU, I think that you take that money in comparison to, you know, Saudi Arabia and Jordan, right? But, and again, Jordan's fine, I guess, in comparison to Saudi Arabia. But we don't really know. All we know from his side, is there were emails. Saudi Arabia was interested. Colorado was not. So I think what this says about Dion is, it seems like he's being a lot more cautious when it comes to NIL, probably because it's still murky territory, and all these schools are waiting on this settlement to come in so they understand what's going on, who they need to cut off the Olympics team, off the Olympic sports, that they making no money. You know, so, like, I think there's a lot of murky territory here. But I don't think, to me, I think that every school is worth this money. I think Colorado has a lot more to prove outside of their football program, but I think that their basketball team made it to March Madness this year. I think that there's a lot of good things in their women's team as well. So I think with money, like Colorado, I don't know if they can compete with, like, the basketball and the football powerhouses, but they can at least be competitive when it comes to getting these athletes to come to Boulder, Colorado, which I have never been to, so I don't want to throw no shade on it. But I mean, it sounds like the middle of nowhere. So again, like, you would have to pay me a lot of money to go there. So I am on the mindset that, yeah, they need to invest. I think Colorado is worth that investment. You know, and to move on to the next question, I do think international investments in this been wave, especially if the NCAA doesn't get some foresight on this. I mean, we already see that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates already, well, specifically the UAE, is buying into the NBA, right? You know, the in-season tournament now is the UAE, you know, Emirates season tournament, in-season tournament now. So that's what Saudi Arabia wants. Like, NBA, if you can get NBA, if you can get college sports that are in front of a lot of Americans, this is why I think, not having talked to any member of the Saudi Arabian consulate, I think that that's why they want that, because they're like, well, if nothing else, we know that there's 2 national games. Dion's a walking PR dream, so we'll get a lot of investment by having Deion Sanders and some Saudi Arabian stuff. So, like, you know, I think it just made sense for them on that end, the human rights aspect of it not being taken out of it just for this conversation. But I think, yeah, the international investment is the next big wave. And if the NCAA doesn't get a rule on this, they're going to end up kind of like what happened to the PGA, right? They were trying to figure out how you were so stupid, and now why are you trying to merge with Live and the PGA? Because I think that's what's going to happen. And I think the Saudi Arabians see an opportunity, and so does Jordan here, because if nothing else, buy into a college athletics program, and then if the NCAA, which we all, I mean, I think so. I think more than Morgan, the NCAA to me is about to fold, because once this whole thing goes off and the settlement fails and schools like JMU sue them and the settlement becomes null and void in a minute, it'll be the wild, wild west, and countries and people with money like Saudi Arabia and Jordan will be like, oh, we could just have the Saudi Arabian college athletics program and fund all these American sports. So that's just why I think it is. It's the new wave, and if the NCAA isn't careful, they're going to end up like the PGA, wondering why they're merging with a Saudi Arabian company and having a lot of people looking at their business that they don't want looking at their business.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, I got an email from work and I'm like trying to do both. But I think I completely agree. I think that that it's a double-edged sword, meaning that there are some ways that foreign, I think, it's hard. I know I don't want to say anything that's gonna piss people off, but I think that there are different tiers to foreign agencies getting involved. I think there are countries that are our allies and countries that we both can benefit from, and I don't think that causes as much of an issue. But when there are certain countries that cause an issue, and I think that it's a much stickier conversation just than who can donate money to us. And here's the thing, if they're just donating money to donate money and that's all that it is, I mean, maybe, I guess, but you have to know where that money is coming from and how that money has been collected, I guess, would be a safe way to put it.
Right. Again, it's not a bad question for those of you that are like, you're probably like both of us, like, why is Saudi Arabia trying to invest in Colorado? To be fair to them, they didn't come to Colorado with this.
Yes, exactly.
A representative from the school, former representative, went to them. So just to be fair here, it wasn't like they're looking to invest in colleges. But yeah, I think it is a slippery slope as we talked about. But moving right along, because starting tomorrow, college football is back, but it's college football for people like you, me, and Morgan, who are, if you're not a college football sicko like us, you're probably like, I don't care, it's not the NFL. But the college football's most interesting teams or stories heading into the start of the season. I'll start because Morgan's in the middle of a work thing, so I'm gonna give her some time to answer that. To me, obviously, as a Syracuse alum, Fran Brown in Syracuse, there's a lot of excitement there. I think that's going to be interesting. I think Syracuse, they already went to a bowl last year, despite all of what was going on with their former coach and everything. So I think, and the fact that they were able to get an Ohio State quarterback to go to Syracuse, like I think it's going to be great. I think it's great to see what Syracuse could do. I think that they'll be like either third or fourth in the ACC. I think that he's that good. He's that good of a motivator, Fran Brown. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think, this we're going to talk about this team next, but I think Florida State's going to be interesting. How do they look now that they have DJ Uyangale? I know some of y'all like, how'd you get that right on the first try? A lot of practice. That is, has he finally found a home? I think what Florida State looks like, despite the fact that they're trying to lead the ACC, but have no plan on where they're going after that. I think Morgan brought it up. I'm probably still on her thunder. What does JMU look like now that everybody knows that they're coming, right? Houston, Colorado, and all these teams going to the Big 12. What does that look like? It's a really exciting time.
What I think I'm most intrigued about is the Big 10, or whatever alliteration you want to call it, the Big 16 or whatever. Getting away from having the two divisions, I guess. They used to call it. It was not the winners and the losers. That was not what they called it, but that's kind of what it was. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how that plays out this year. And I'm assuming it's still going to mean that Michigan and Ohio State are on top, but it might not be.
I still think the top three is going to be some combination of Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, and then everybody else. But we'll see. I think that Oregon and Washington are intriguing, and obviously USC. But I think those West Coast teams and everybody else will be battling for fourth place. I definitely think the Big Ten will have the most, because they have all those football powerhouses, right? I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
Just in their new additions, they've got the last couple of members of championship games. Oregon now, Washington. They were just there last year. I don't expect Oregon or Washington to be in the championship game again. But hey, this is the first year. The most interesting story is like, what is it going to look like? Is there going to be less politics now with a top 12 playoff instead of a top four? So
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm really
I
excited.
think it's going to be excited. I'm excited for week 0. I am, you know, I guess I should have had my JMU shirt on instead of my Giants one, but
Right. Right. And I mean, it all kicks off tomorrow, man. Florida
yeah,
State versus Georgia Tech.
it's
I
in,
mean, I
this is
have,
in
I don't,
Ireland, right?
I
Am I
believe so. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I
College.
have to say, I love that they're starting to do the college games abroad. Like, I think that bringing NFL abroad is great. You know, it's football, it's professional football, but there's something so special about college sports. The tradition, and I'm sure they don't have the whole band. I'm sure they don't have, but I'm sure they have a lot of the cheerleaders, a lot of the dance team, part of the band, and they kind of just get to experience the people of, you know, Ireland or England. You know, some of these places where I believe there might be a game in England this year. I could be wrong, but it's awesome. Um, you know, it's cool, and I'm excited that they're gonna do it. I don't know. I'm just excited. I don't really know much about what to actually expect for the actual game itself, like the players on the field, but
Yeah, I think
I'm
I think I think all we know is DJ. So because
yeah.
it's Florida State and Georgia Tech. So for him, I'm really excited to see what it looks like. Hopefully they can keep their quarterback healthy. That's that's all I'm going to say for Florida State. Georgia Tech is option offense. It's a battle of the ACC. So I just think it says a lot. I think Florida State should win this game pretty handily. No offense to Georgia Tech, but I don't think they have anything for Florida State, and I think for the Florida State revenge tour, first victim is going to be Georgia Tech. And I'm playfully playing with words there. The Florida State Revenge Tour. Morgan knows I couldn't care. I could before Syracuse decided to go to the ACC. I couldn't care less about Florida State. I definitely don't care less about Florida State now. But I think Florida State has a chance to really make their mark now with a 12-team playoff. There shouldn't be any complaints. Obviously, you can't change what happened last year, but there shouldn't be any complaints from Florida State this year. So yeah, moving right along. Team to beat in college football. Oh, that's a good question. Um, I want to say Georgia, man. I still think it's Georgia and everybody else.
Yeah.
I think Alabama's gonna fall off now without Nick Saban. Um, I know they have my man Kalen DeBoer there, real close to mine, but this is one of them times where I'm gonna be like, love you close to name twin, but I don't think you're the same guy. I know there's a lot of Washington players in Alabama now, but I don't think I really have. I think Jalen Milroe has to show me that there's been some development, some more player development. He's a great quarterback, great player, great athlete, but I want to see him like make throws, go through his progressions, and I think if he can do that, it'll be big time for Alabama. But I think it's we're all getting texts right now. I think
I
it's
know, I know. We're both like trying to do work and finish the podcast.
I think I think like I think it's Georgia's, man. I think
Yeah.
Georgia's on a revenge tour too. I think it's Georgia's to lose, man. And a 12 team, anything can happen, but I think it's Georgia's, and I think I'm interested to see like what team comes out of nowhere. Last year was Washington. The year before that was Cincinnati. I'm interested on that, but the team to beat to me is Georgia, and I think everybody else is playing for second place.
Yeah, I agree, honestly. I think it's Georgia. I think a lot of these teams with the new coaches, I think Michigan and Alabama are going to be interesting. I kind of have no idea what to expect with them. I wouldn't be surprised going kind of either way. Ohio State is always again interesting, and they are interested to me, and I'm interested in them. And I'm interested. I don't know. That's kind of my those are probably my four to watch. I know a lot of that is Big Ten and SEC, but isn't it always Big Ten and SEC? You can there's always the main teams in there. There's always the big ones. And I think a lot of them you don't actually know until you get them onto the field and you start playing. I think that as it's the same as NFL. It's the same as much as you can watch film, I guess you could say, and you can watch their practices. It doesn't mean a lot until you get out there on the field and you actually play. And with college, it's the same as the NFL. When people get hurt, something so drastically changes. Even more, I would say, in college, stuff changes so drastically if a quarterback gets hurt. You see it happen across the board. And I think it's interesting and it's intriguing about what's going to happen. I haven't been able to do a full, complete deep dive on the teams and all of their players. And I think that kind of normally comes within the first couple weeks. So it's going to be a fun couple weeks. We're kind of going to move on so we're going to get back to the W. We haven't talked about the W in a little while. So Caitlin Clark and the Fever starting. Okay. Words. Caitlin Clark and the Fever are off to a hot start after the Olympic break. I think that that's something that kind of everybody expected, that we were kind of ready to see Caitlin do Caitlin stuff because we hadn't really gotten to see that as much at the beginning of the season. She got a rightfully deserved break. She hadn't really had a break since before the college basketball season started. So having that Olympic break, I think, and we said this when she didn't make the team, that we think that in a few years she's going to look back and be glad that she wasn't on that team. She will potentially have her opportunity to make those gold medals, but you only have one rookie season. And I think that she's going to be happy with herself that she was able to take some time off, rest, relax, rejuvenate, and come out with a bang.
Go to a Yankees game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like, we said before, obviously, like, I was a little bit harder on the Fever as a team than Morgan was, because I think that, they had a hot start. They beat the Seattle Storm, blew out the Mercury. I think we said before, as Morgan alluded to, that they needed some rest. They got some rest. It seems really good that Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey are bonding, which is good. I know Kelsey probably won't be there anymore, Kelsey Mitchell, because she is a free agent. And but it's good to see. Like, obviously you have a lot with Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, and like I said, I think that's great for them. I think Caitlin is finally figuring it out now. I think that she's finally playing and doing, as Morgan said, Caitlin things. I don't think that they'll make the playoffs. Just to head off to our next question, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. But right now they're in 7th place, so they're doing a lot better than they were before the All-Star break and the Olympics break. So, anything can happen at this point, especially with there being no conferences anymore in the WNBA playoff. Everybody plays everybody based on where you're seated. So I think it's interesting, and I think it really adds some intrigue. But I don't think, if they do make the playoffs, I don't think they make it past the first round. But again, Caitlin Clark could go bananas like she did for the national title game and will them to a championship game. But I'm of the mindset that they're not going to make the playoffs, but they do have a lot to work with Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark. And I think the coach now is the only problem. And I think talent can cover a lot of things. But I am of the mindset that Chrissy Sykes shouldn't have her job much longer. And I think that, if I think that you need a coach who can really, really do well with that Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark dynamic, and somebody who will realize that Caitlin Clark is more of an SG than a PG. But that's just my insider basketball takes. But I think that it looks really good for Caitlin Clark and the Fever right now, and we'll see. But I don't personally think they'll make the playoffs. I know it's gonna rankle some people who think that Caitlin Clark and the Fever can do no wrong just because Caitlin Clark's on that team. But I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really tough to make the playoffs. That's kind of, I'm in the same boat as you. I think it's going to be a long haul. I mean, obviously, if they ball out the rest of the season, they have a chance. But I think there's just some really, really, really good other teams that don't seem to be taking their foot off the gas pedal anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so now to everybody's favorite to the segment that's back, as Morgan alluded to, top teams in the W. Well, I mean, we got to go with the Liberty, the people that Morgan isn't far from, the Liberty. I mean, they came back from the All-Star break. You think Sabrina and Stewie and all the other All-Stars All-Stars and Olympians that they have on that team would ease on in, but nah, look at them blowing people out. So I think my top three still haven't changed. This the Liberty. It's Morgan's hometown, Connecticut Sun. It's still the Minnesota Lynx. Oh man, my fourth team, man. It's a doozy, but I gotta say the Storm, even though they just got destroyed. But I think that now that they're starting to figure it out, it looks like Jewel Lloyd is finally catching fire. Their Olympians have come back and have been killing it, man. I mean, I think if you play good defense in the W, you got a chance, man. So, and they're the best defensive team in the league. So I gotta say the Storm. So for me, Liberty, Sun, Lynx, Storm. That's my top four. That's my top teams. I know it says top teams, not top four, but I'm gonna just say top four. And Morgan can go with whatever amount she feels.
I'm gonna be so honest. I have not watched a lot of WNBA since the Olympics have been over. I've actually watched a few Fever games, but I haven't really watched much else. So I'm gonna revert to Kylan on this one. And again, I went from the Olympics to right back into football. So
That's true.
My life has been a little bit preoccupied by other sports. But I'm hoping to be able to watch some WNBA in the next couple weeks.
All right then. So we'll move right along then to players that need to prove something heading into the NFL season. Y'all know as we get towards the end of shows, I like to do some interesting topics now. So one of my players that needs to prove something heading into the NFL season is the man I talked about, Josh Allen. He needs to regain some standing. I mean, Jalen Hurts has been to a Super Bowl. Morgan already knows that he was already a solid leading top five. She has called me out because I don't put Josh Allen in the top five like everybody else, but he's not in my top five if you can't make noise in the playoffs. So Josh Allen has a lot to prove with me. I think he needs to show and remind the Buffalo Bills that when you have a God level quarterback, that you need to build around him and not just give him tight ends. So I think that he's got something to prove to me. He needs to prove that he can at least make it to an AFC championship game. You can lose to Patrick Mahomes, but at least get there, right? Morgan can correct me if I'm wrong, but he hasn't gotten to one yet, correct? In his career at all, right?
No.
So there. So yeah. So I think he has something. I'm gonna throw a curveball here as well. I think Russell Wilson. Again, I feel like this is Russell Wilson's last stop. This is his OK Corral. Russell, it's time to put up or shut up. You know I love you. I think Morgan's a big fan as well. But I know she didn't want you on the Giants. Only one of us wanted you on the team here. But I think Russell Wilson has a lot to prove. I think Justin Fields is waiting in the wings, and I think that Russell Wilson has to show that he's that guy. I don't know if he's Super Bowl winning Russ anymore, but he's at least top 10, top 15 quarterback Russ. So he needs to find that guy. And when you're playing with all those weapons that Pittsburgh have, you actually have a good running back. The only negative right now on Pittsburgh is their offensive line. But you got to get the ball out fast, man. You can't keep holding the ball. You gotta find that Russell Wilson again, man. Make us believe again. So I think Russell Wilson and Josh Allen have a lot to prove. I think the Lions have something to prove to me too, just because I want to know, is this the new Lions, or is this just fluky Lions? And then they go back to being, that team that goes 0-18, the first 0-18, or was it 0-17? 0 and what's it's 18 now, right? 18 games now, or is it
Yeah.
17? It's 18.
Well, 18 weeks, 17 games.
Yeah, so the first NFL team to go 0-17, like, don't be that team, man. So I want to see man. The Lions have a lot to prove. I know it said players, but the Lions have a lot to prove to me as well. So yeah, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, and the Lions.
Those are good ones. My number one is Trevor Lawrence.
Sunshine.
He signed a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always think anybody who signs big deals, they got something to prove. They got to prove to their fans, to the world, I guess, that they deserve their big contract, right? So he's a big one for me. I mean, I don't know if any single person in the league has anything more to prove than Daniel Jones. Honestly.
Going with the homer pick, huh?
The entirety of New York is rooting against him right now. Not rooting against him. They're rooting for him, but they have zero faith. So you know,
New York, y'all just praying that it all burns.
I just, those are my two big ones. I think that, you see some of these people that have caused big names. You see Josh Jacobs. I think a lot of the running backs, we know they're good, but are they as good? Do they deserve to be treated like they think they should be treated? Blah, 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 blah. But those would be my big ones. I would say the running backs as a total, and Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones.
Okay. Hey, that's one, man. And so before we get, this is another one. We showed y'all Ross Dellinger is all over this. So the biggest thing that happened before we came on air, and then we'll get to shout out segment. He's not him because I know Morgan's got to go. So Ross Dellinger is reported that the NCAA will get rid of the spring transfer window. And my reaction to this is another, like, so for those of you that don't understand, so the spring transfer window now is open until, I think, basically, like, what is it, early May now, Morgan? So they're gonna get rid of that and basically make it September to January 7th. That is when you can request a transfer if you're a football player. And to me, that's stupid because
it's so dumb.
The playoffs don't end, I think, until MLK Day. So if you don't,
I don't know why we didn't do it the other way. Why didn't you say that you couldn't even start talking about transfers or put your name in the transfer portal until that date, and then do it for 2 months after that? It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Again, the NCAA, man. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think that the reality of it is we both think that this is dumb.
Yeah,
and it's kind of, I'm sure we'll learn more about this. This kind of came out right before the podcast started, and I'm sure everybody will be talking about it for the next couple of weeks, especially getting into the season. So we will keep you guys updated as we learn more on this kind of breaking story.
All right. Yeah, so we go to our shout out segments. You got any shout outs?
I have a personal shout out. And I know she's not watching this, but my mother-in-law, who came today and spent 4 hours cleaning out our basement for us. It has just been one of those places where we dumped things for 3 years now. She came with organizational bins and was like, we're doing it. We are cleaning up. We are getting rid of all the crap you don't need. And she was like, we're doing it. You have all these wedding presents. You got to find a place to put them. Let's do it. And I'm very, very, very grateful for her for that.
Okay.
I don't know if I have a shout out seg that's not that. I was kind of trying to think about it, and no one's really done anything that I think is super nice. So,
well, for me, I want to shout out all the teachers, including my mother and all the other teachers and stuff, getting ready to go back to school in these next few weeks. And obviously the college kids going back this week and the week before that, and in the South right now who are currently in school. So hoping, shout out to all of you guys going to school, whether it's kindergarten or 18th, what is it, 18th grade, 12th grade, the 16th grade, I think, even though they don't really grade college, but 16th grade. So shout out to all of you guys. Hoping and praying. We're all praying and hoping that you guys have a great and safe school year. So shout out to that. Shout out to we all, for those of you that watched the DNC last night, we all witnessed history. So shout out to the first Black and South Asian nominee ever. And for a major party, shout out to that, because that's history. We got to shout out history. Yeah, so I think that's my biggest shout outs. And again, I said it before, we're not endorsing the candidate, but make sure you all vote because that's important.
I did have one. I'm sorry.
All right.
I was really, really impressed with Angel Reese. I don't know if you saw this video. Some guy, trying to bait her, I would say, to say, kind of asking about saying that, Kamala was the first. There's a lot of things happening in Chicago right now. First woman of color to be nominated for presidential election. How does she feel about that? And I thought she handled it really beautifully. She said, I haven't really done my research. I don't really know much about it, but what I encourage everybody to do is to go out there and vote, exercise your right to vote. And then she did again tweet last night to saying vote. And I think that's awesome. And I think that kind of what we were just saying is that we'll never tell you who to vote for, and we'll, probably never tell you who we vote for, though it may be obvious one way or the other, but that, it's important to just go out there and vote. It doesn't matter who you vote for, just vote. And, if you don't vote, you can't complain. That's my rule. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I have another one. Shout out to Ronda Rousey. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, she came out and she apologized for retweeting. I think she said 12 years ago, which is crazy, about the Sandy Hook shooting and all the pain she caused those families, off the strength of, obviously, for those of you that watch the DNC, they did have a Sandy Hook survivor, I believe. I think she was a teacher, talk about the pain and all that she went through and still goes through, based on surviving that shooting. So shout out to Ronda Rousey, because we got to shout out growth as a person. There's a lot of athletes that retweet dumb stuff, and will never apologize. So, as Morgan famously always has a he's not him because of Aaron Rodgers and some other people, so who will never do that. So shout out to Ronda Rousey for that growth.
Yeah,
right.
Growth is great. Growth is great. Yeah. So it takes a big person to admit when they were wrong.
Yeah, so he's not him, she's not her, and they aren't them, because we got to get Morgan out of here. So
I gotta go to I'm going to a 50 Cent concert tonight, guys. I gotta get out of here and get myself all dolled up for 50.
Yeah, she's being a total millennial.
I know. I'm like so excited too. I'm like ready to bop off at the outside in Stanford.
Yeah.
All right, you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Ladies first.
Cool. All right, so I'm sure some of you saw this, and I'm going to pull up his name so I make sure I get it right. My he's not him is to U.S. flag football quarterback Darnell Duchette, I think is how you say his last name. Duquette, maybe?
Oh, I did see that. He said
he came out there and said, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm better than Patrick Mahomes because of my IQ of the game. Not better at football, better at flag football. Now, I think that is an asinine statement to make. Patrick Mahomes will be better than you at flag football. Like, he was saying that he's more twitchy and he has ways to get out of people getting the flags on him. And I'm like, have you ever watched Patrick Mahomes play football? I don't know. I think that I understand the guys who play flag football year round are very upset because everyone's talking about what NFL players will play. I understand that. But at some point, you just got to be like, people are talking about my sport. That's cool. I think what he should have said, and he did say this to give him credit, but then he went off and said all this other stupid stuff, that he thinks that everybody needs to try out. Fine. I'm totally fair with that. Do a full tryout. Put it on TV. People would watch it. That'd be awesome. I'd watch it. It'd be so fun.
Yep. I definitely will watch that.
To say that they don't know how to play flag football is crazy, because they do play flag football. They play flag football in the Pro Bowl. which I know not everybody goes to, but they do kind of understand the rules of it. So that's my he's not him, because there are just times where, you know, and I get it, your moment in fame, your moment in the limelight, you know, is it is what it is. It is what it is. My my they aren't them. I
Uh-oh.
had one and it's slipping my mind. I can't think of it. And I
You
don't
want
have
me?
a she's not her. The ladies have been nice this week.
You want? You
So
want me? You want us to come back to you?
yeah, you go, and if I remember it, I will say it.
All right. So I don't think I have a she's not her, but my he's not him. I got a dual one. So I guess we'll just make it they aren't them instead of two he's not hims. I gotta go with Noah Lyles and Tyreek Hill. First off, Tyreek Hill for being stupid enough to think that just because you're football fast, you can beat Noah Lyles. You can't beat a gold medalist, and Noah Lyles for acting like he doesn't know who Tyreek Hill is. Like, come on now, dog. And so, like, just for those of you that don't know, so you know, obviously the NBA players had the last laugh. I know some of y'all might have seen that the USA basketball when they won of the men's basketball be in fairness to the women, you might have seen that they said we'll never be sick of winning or something like that. And I know a lot of Noah Lyles fans and track fans were like, "Is this them? Is this them taking a shot at Noah?" It might have been, but I feel like it was one of those. I mean, Morgan's more the social media poster than me as far as professionally, so maybe she could read more into that. But to me, I just took it as like they're not sick of winning, and I also think it could have been one of those veiled Drake level shots at Noah. But I also don't think just because of how sensitive the basketball players are to this, having played in the bubble, that I don't think anybody got LeBron or Joel Embiid or anybody's permission to post this. But I don't think they would take a shot at COVID, knowing what those players went through in the bubble a few years ago. So I don't think it was a shot at that. But yeah, the Noah Lyles, man. I mean, now it's come out that why you took a shot at the NBA and got NBA and track Twitter so angry at each other was because you were mad because Adidas wouldn't give you a shoe. Of course, they didn't give you a shoe, dog. You hadn't proved anything yet. You didn't win a gold medal. You didn't prove anything yet. So, I know you think that you were better than Anthony Edwards, but let me be real with you, man. People know Anthony Edwards better than they know Noah Lyles. Like, the only reason I know who you are, and Morgan knows probably more about you than I do because she lived in the area that you grew up in. I didn't know who you were until you started doing well in track. Like, I'm a track fan. So, like, I knew who you were based on that. Obviously, you didn't make. I don't even think did he make the Olympics the year before this? I don't think so, right? He didn't make it in
I
Tokyo.
don't know what the deal with that was. If he didn't make it, or if he didn't go, or he got COVID, I don't know.
Yeah, so like I don't believe he was in the Tokyo Olympics, but I think that you're a star and you're even more of a star now, and you'll definitely get a shoe deal from somebody. But like you're not Usain Bolt, dog. You only got one gold medal. You're a 3-time world champion. Can never take that away from you, and you had some valid points. But like taking a shot at the NBA and then they get you on the Tonight Show and you act like you don't know who Nikola Jokic is after being in an Olympic Village with him for 2 weeks. Come on now, dog. Like Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill and my and Noah Lyles, my they aren't thumbs, man. Act like you've been there before. You won a gold medal. Now you can get your sneaker deal. Tyreek Hill, why are you being so stupid? You can't beat Noah Lyles in a race, man. Like, and then my heat. Do I have a he's not him? That's it. That's it for me. Did you remember it?
I didn't remember, so I think we are all good. We are gonna see you guys next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys. We are excited for fall sports to start. It's always a great time of the year. It's crisp and cold outside, and it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys. So peace out. We'll see you soon.
We gotta get Morgan to spell out PIMP. So we gotta get her ready for 50 Cent. So all right, y'all have a good one, and we'll see you, man. Don't get got by many men. See y'all.